Hi folks, today the objective is to get some non-skid texture to this varnished plywood. This is a test board that will give me an idea what to lay down on my varnish that's going on the stairs in my sailboat. That gets wet. I want it to be non-skid for that reason. So I've read about using coarse ground salt, so we'll try that on a section of this plywood. Another item I've heard about is using a ground walnut shell. This is about millimeter size texture walnut shell. And then finally, I picked this up at Ace Hardware. It's called Tread Tex. I think it's something like sand. It's a coarse, angular, sharp type of material that you mix with paint usually, but we'll see if it works with varnish. Anyway, we'll see how we do here and get going on applying some varnish with each one of these and done individually. So the recommendation for the salt application is to apply your varnish as you normally would. Then we apply the salt. I chose the medium setting here. What I've noticed, and the density that you want to apply this is to your liking or taste. What I find is I'm finding a wide range, some very fine particles coming out, and some pretty coarse ones out to a couple millimeters. For the walnut shell application, I'll add some shell here to my varnish. This is an oil-based varnish. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. Alright, so now on the third panel, I'm going to use this stuff I bought at Ace that's called a paint additive. We'll see how it does in varnish. Now this is a much finer grain material than the walnut grains or the larger coarse grain on the salt. I'm going to try to guess a density here to go with. First thing I notice that this stuff is a heavier material, so it's sinking to the bottom of the varnish, so I'm going to have to maintain a good bit of stirring while I'm applying this. I can tell right off the bat. So let's see how this goes. What I do like is that it does spread out pretty uniform, and I keep the mixing up. And like the walnut, if I get my brush down in there, I bring up a good bit of the particles. Alright, I'll bring you in for a closer look and we'll see how things look when they dry. Alright, here's the salt. As I mentioned, there's a great range of particle sizes. The big chunks correspond to the setting I use on the salt shaker, which is the medium setting, and but there's a lot of smaller particles mixed in. Over here in the next panel is walnut. They're much more uniform in density, or not density, but in size. And then finally is the Tread Tex paint additive I got at Ace. Uniform particle size, much smaller, probably something like a third the size of those walnut particles. And now we'll let them dry and see how things turn out then. Okay, my side-by-side test surface varnished and is now dry, and let's take a look to see how things worked out. For the salt finish, you could see it's rather smooth. I wiped down with a wet sponge. Now the thing here in Colorado, stuff dries really fast, and by the time I had finished doing this small section, the varnish was already starting to cure. And some of these finer grains out of this salt shaker were already dry, or rather the varnish was dry so that the small grains didn't adhere very well. And larger grains also, but at least they made some sort of an impact here. This isn't a bad ending here if I wanted to stop there. It's not real grippy, but at the other side of this, if you go barefoot, as we will on our sailboat, on surfaces like this, we'll have enough traction, but it won't be really rugged on the skin. On the other hand, walnut is really rough, and I would not be comfortable walking on this stuff. These are also tended walnut to aggregate into clumps of several. I'm not sure why. Maybe the walnut likes to adhere to itself that way. But anyhow, this is going to need a little bit of maybe light sanding and another coat of varnish to make this something suitable for what I intend to use for, and that's walking barefoot on a varnished surface if it was wet. Now the Tread Tex is pretty uniform, and the clumping that we saw for walnut's not there. I'm pretty happy with the uniformity. It's a little bit rugged on feet, so I might go with a little bit of varnish on this. So that's the plan for now, is hit these last two surfaces with another coat of varnish. Okay, final check after the second coat of varnish, except for the salt. For the walnut, that is really rough. Even after the second coat of varnish, I probably have to go for at least 2 coats more to make that foot kindly. And again, it might be that this texture or the size of the grain is just a little bit too large. Anyway, I would not go with that on my cabin sole, for instance, or stairs. What's good about this is that it is a wood product, which is about the only bonus on that, as opposed to the Tread Tex. I do not know what this stuff's made out of. I'm a little concerned about it as this top layer of varnish wears off, that some of these granules come out, but then I'm pretty much, I guess, facing it the worst sand, and the cabin sole is going to get sand on it anyway. Anyway, this is the most friendly texture, and I think it gives good grip. So I'd probably go with this on my cabin sole in the boat and on the stairs. Alright, so that's a wrap. Hope this video was of help to you in your project. See you later.